I may have mentioned to you that I have Puritan roots in Scotland. My family are Plymouth Brethren on my father's side, and so I respond aesthetically to cues which are puritanical, and also because I'm an emotional communist, I like rather communistic fashion. So this magazine Kunel, and this is a one-shot mook which appeared in March of this year. Kunel is a kind of lifestyle magazine, but they do fashion as well. I'm always fascinated by the kind of women especially that feature and the kind of clothes they're wearing. So let's look at this Kunel mook and see what we can draw, see what the inferences we can draw are. For a start, this cover model looks as if she could be a kind of educationalist in North Korea. She's got a very severe hairstyle, severe round-collared tunic, no frills. It looks like one of the teachers in a North Korean propaganda video. Inside, we find this schoolgirl, looks like a schoolgirl or perhaps just a party member, with her feet parked tightly together, her arms held severely by her sides, and she has a little black tie, very old-fashioned. And of course this magazine bases its appeal on return to simpler values, as well as Puritanism and possibly fascism or communism. Here we have a slightly more existential image. This severe, rather anxious-looking actress, she's actually a famous actress, in a cafe with a glass of water. Glasses of water are very important because they represent transparency, a lack of artifice, and a lack of bling. Men also feature. You see this man in a cardigan. He looks rather rural. He looks as if he's just been out in the fields. He's from an earlier, simpler time, we could say. But of course, peasant things in certain kind of bourgeois context are very expensive. Peasant cuisine becomes expensive cuisine. This man, I think it's a man, maybe it's a woman. It's difficult to tell in Kunel because often the men look like women. He looks like he could be the Minister of Public Information in a communist country in Asia somewhere. These are Asian values. They're the values of the past. They're the values of simplicity and nature and biblical. I mean, I think of my grandfather's house, which included the Bible, the Pilgrim's Progress, and possibly some kind of almanac on the bookshelves, but very little else. This is a couple who could be Shakers. They could be Quakers, Shakers, Pilgrims, Puritans from the 18th century. She looks very beautiful, incongruously beautiful, but it's a beautiful aesthetic. Now, this is amazing. You actually turn a few pages further in, going from right to left through the magazine, you find this section heading colour. What are they going to do with colour? Because colour is really a little bit taboo in this aesthetic. It's normally blues, beiges, greys, blacks and whites. But if you open this colour feature, you find that they're only allowing one colour per photograph. So this photograph has yellow, and again it's the institutrice, the communist instructor from the front cover, with her same severe slicked back hairstyle held tightly in a ponytail. The next page she's wearing something red, but always over a basic black or white, and this is very important. Flesh tones, a white backdrop, sans serif typefaces, lowercase. They don't like capital letters because perhaps that's a little too non-communist. Some letters standing above others. Here she's got one green item, a green skirt, and it's ruched, and you'll find a lot of the fabrics and materials. Typically it's they're natural things like hemp, linen, rough, not shiny, never bright or shiny, always matte surfaced. And we return to the blacks and whites. Here there's no colour. Same model. You can see that she doesn't seem to be wearing any makeup. That's another important feature. Perhaps there is some very clever makeup which just doesn't look like makeup, which you spend a lot of money on to make it look as if you've done nothing at all. She's got some spots on her skin. They don't all have clear skin, and this shows that they're not using Photoshop. Shoes, of course, have to be flat-soled and have sensible buckles, the kind of shoes that girls in seminaries, in religious schools would not be allowed to wear because you'd be able to see their underwear in the shiny reflective surface, but still very sensible and flat. And of course these are rather middle-aged values. These are the values of the stereotypical middle-aged lady in the 1950s, the twin satin pearls. Here, this is a young and beautiful model. So we wonder if the readers of the Kunal Mook are actually older ladies, perhaps people who read Olive magazine in the 80s and 90s. Yes, we're back to safer territory. The feature, a subheading now, black and white, with a picture rather in the Takashi Hama style of Tokyo street scene. Of course, this reminds us that this is a publication from Magazine House, who used to publish Relax, and still publish Brutus. So we know the basic ballpark. But Kunal is a little bit more severe, a little bit more prim, but it's sexily prim, and I think we have to appreciate that the prim and the sexy are not opposed values, that you can actually be tremendously sexy by being insouciant and a little bit restrained. This black and white section allows you to wear quite shocking juxtapositions of black and white clothes, because in fact there's nothing more electrifying than pure black and pure white. If you make an animation which is just flashing black and white screens, that is the most powerful animation you could make. It's very violent on the eye. The shoes, again, sensible shoes, flat-soled, lace-up boots, and of course this reminds us that workwear is the Western aesthetic, version of this aesthetic. Workwear, denims, t-shirts, all these started as workwear and were worn by slaves in the fields, basically, people picking cotton. The one-piece feature we're in now, and this is a black one-piece. You're allowed to wear a kind of sackcloth and ashes, black one-piece dress, not much definition at the waist, looks a bit like Marimeko's early 60s waistless dresses, and you can wear some clogs with that. This is a relaxing in nature kind of feeling, and reminds us that ecological guilt is one component of this aesthetic. And of course it's a post-materialist magazine. I used to have a guilty column in the New York Times, the most consumerist section of the New York Times, called The Post-Materialist. And you're not supposed to pluck your eyebrows as well. Notice she has eyebrows. Products featured in this magazine, they do feature, but they're very cheap ones. Here we see some toothpicks, which can't cost more than $1, and some clothes pegs down below. And these are the kind of things that replace the bling Cartier watches you might find in other magazines. This is a tree. I don't know why they've put a birch tree there, perhaps to evoke a Scandinavian aesthetic, because I think this comes quite close to the sensual puritanism of Scandinavia. But the really exciting feature is coming up now, because a few pages on from this tree feature we have an underwear section. And the kind of rather tomboyish models, flat-chested, boyish in their poses, the mind reels, really, the mind boggles. How are they going to present underwear? Is it going to be utilitarian and puritanical underwear? Here is the underwear model. She's wearing a little slightly frilly around the arms. There is, in amongst the functional signification, there is some kind of sign of decoration. But you can see again her complexion shows no sign of makeup except perhaps for moisturizer. Her legs continue the slightly spotty texture that she has on her face. But I personally do find this rather appealing. I find the knobbly knees, the lack of any kind of glamour imagery quite enticing, because I'm a Puritan. Here we have the underwear section heading, again, sans serif, Helvetica style type, and interesting that the section headings are in English and the descriptions are all in Japanese, but it also has a kind of catalogue feel to it. A mook is a combination of a magazine and a book, but there is a certain kind of, this could be a no-nonsense agricultural underwear catalogue, if there is such a thing. If people in the country wear underwear, which I'm sure they must, this could be it. And this girl, it's difficult to say what her age is. I suppose she could be early 20s. Here she's combining black and white underwear, slightly daringly. It's not very décolleté. She doesn't have very much to hide in that department anyway. So, and no frills here, definitely. Moving on from the underwear section, we have a a hafu. This is not a 100% Japanese person. She looks as if she could be half Scottish or New Zealander or something, or German. And she reminds me a little bit of my friend Naoko Ogawa's current model for her jewellery on her site. There's a certain kind of European type of face that Japanese respond to because they can identify with it. And it's also worth pointing out that these white clothes actually look very good on people with dark hair and dark eyes and dark eyebrows. They make a pleasingly simple kind of black and white drawing effect. Here's the same model wearing, of course, again, flat shoes and a one-piece dress gathered at the waist. It's a dress which could almost be a gingham uniform, like in Anne of Green Gables, for instance. I always think of these fictions like Anne of Green Gables and Little House on the Prairie when I look at this Puritan aesthetic. Returning to the eyebrows, this model reminds us, don't pluck your eyebrows. The American look is to have overplucked eyebrows and staring eyes. You can always see the tops of the pupils of Americans' eyes, and they look starey and mad and neurotic, but they're somehow drinking too much coffee or something. But the Japanese aesthetic, the Puritan Japanese aesthetic, is to be relaxed and calm and not to pluck your eyebrows. As for armpit hair, not entirely sure. I think they do actually generally shave their armpits. And this is the header for the one-piece section, and oh, it's actually a repetition of a slide here. So we return, perhaps appropriately, to the sackcloth and ashes girl in the black dress and the clogs. She's leaning on some stones which could be in a traditional Japanese garden. They're probably arranged by monks, and of course this reminds us that there is a very severe aesthetic connected to this simplicity. That simplicity includes profundity. Just as minimalism in art is, the less there is actually there to arrange, the more people consider it to be spiritual and profound, like a Mark Rothko painting. Sandals, when in doubt, what would Jesus wear? He would wear sandals, and he would wear a kind of loose flowing cotton robe. Anything more exotic or flashy than Jesus, you're a sinner. She also has a Jesus hairstyle. She looks a bit like Mai Ueda, I think, this woman. I like her strong eyebrows. They bespeak a strong personality. She's renounced earthly things because there are more important things in heaven or possibly on earth, which you can enjoy in a non-materialistic way. This is a permissible accessory, which is a kind of keffiyeh, or a thickly wrapped scarf. I don't know technically what this is. Perhaps it has a name in Japanese, but it should always be as black and white or as grey as the rest of the outfit you're wearing. Here's a sort of white and grey one to go with a white outfit. And it could actually be two hemp or cotton scarves. Linen, I don't know, linen. I'm not really an expert on materials. But the really essential item of clothing you need in this magazine's aesthetic is a white shirt. You should hang it on a clothes hanger. It should look a bit like a theatrical costume that you would wear in a play set in the 19th century by Ibsen, perhaps, or Chekhov. Something Uncle Vanya might have hanging up that he would wear, or his wife would wear under their frock coats and things. Some plain black shoes. These are brogues with white shoes. Again, slightly flashy, and it's all about knowing the exact model of brogues to have. Not just any brogues, not just any white socks. Has to be a specific referential kind, because you're really, this is all about a distinction strategy. You're distinguishing yourself from the readers of those other trashy bling magazines like Egg, or the Gal Style, or the mainstream fashion magazines, which are all about how to dress up sexy with lots of blusher and catch a man who has lots of money and all the rest of it. You're making a very clear statement with this aesthetic that you're not interested in that. What you're interested in is a kind of glass of cold water clarity. So you have your white shirt. This is the most basic item, not the blusher, eyelash, false eyelashes, whatever nonsense they waste time with in those other magazines. Your white shirt. This shows you're a serious person. It's hanging in your closet along with your frock coat. It shows you're a Puritan, or it shows you're a member of the party if you're in North Korea. It shows that you're not a running dog lackey of the capitalist system. And it's printed on glossy paper, but it's certainly not glossy clothing. So there we are, Kunal Mook, and the emotional communist Puritan aesthetic, which is also an Asian aesthetic and a collectivist aesthetic, and the past and the future, we could say. It's about the future of the past. Oh, and I was going to add something about the idea of repressive desublimation, that the Kuhnel look is anti-repressive desublimation, but you're just going to have to look that up. It's Google Herbert Marcuse, One-Dimensional Man, Repressive Desublimation.